Okay, so I really wonder what Lewis means by causation, and it's really tough for me to follow. And I just looked up on the Stanford Dictionary Lewis and just jumped to the chapter on causation. And let's see what they say here. So, 1973, Lewis put forward an analysis of causation in terms of counterfactual dependence. So, what is counterfactual dependence? It's already a bit hard to get what that is. That means that it's an if analysis, right? If this is so, then this does not mean that something has to exist, right? The idea was that event B was counterfactually dependent on event A if and only if the counterfactual had A not occur, B would not have occurred was true. Okay, so this may be the important part here. I just want to look up counterfactual theories of causation. So the basic idea of counterfactual theories of causation is that the meaning of causal claims can be explained in terms of counterfactual conditionals of the form, if A had not occurred, C would not have occurred. Most counterfactual analyses have focused on claims of the form event C caused event E, describing singular or token or actual causation. Such analyses have become popular since the development in the 1970s of possible word semantics for counterfactual. The best-known counterfactual analysis of causation is David Lewis' theory. However, intense discussion over 40 years has cast doubt on the adequacy of any simple analysis of single causation in terms of counterfactuals. Recent years have seen a proliferation of different refinements of the basic idea. The structural equations or causal modeling framework is currently the most popular way of cashing out the relationship between causation and counterfactuals. So yeah, I really wonder, like, what are we doing here? So we are interested in what are causes, I guess. And I don't see that he probably did something very groundbreaking. But could somebody explain to me why? Okay, so if A had not occurred, B would not have occurred. Then event C causes event E. This is what we just read. If and only if there's a chain C, D to D, N, E. Okay. Okay, this was the sets that he meant. He was talking about a set. So there can be different pieces in there, right? Like in a Tim's crazy machine, or however you call these, such that each member in the chain is counterfactually dependent on the event before it. In summary, causation is the ancestral of counterfactual dependence. What do they mean by ancestral? It's the ancestor. Okay, so we try to describe causation in a sense that if C, then E, and no matter what is in between. So causation is a logical idea, basically. That's what it says, right? The reasoning about chains helps Lewis sidestep a problem that many thought unavoidable for counterfactual theory of causation, namely the problem of preempting causes. So what is a preempting cause? Here's an example. Imagine that Suzy throws a rock. The rock hits a window and the window shatters. Suzy's throw caused the window to shatter, but there is a backup thrower, Billy. Had Suzy not thrown, Billy would have thrown another rock and broken the window. So the window breaking is not counterfactual dependent on Suzy's throw. Lewis's solution was to posit an event of the rock flying towards the window. Had Suzy not thrown the rock, would not have been flying towards the window. And had the rock not been flying towards the window would have not been shattered. Lewis's thought here is that it is Suzy's thrown that causes Billy to not to throw. Once she has thrown, Billy is out of the picture, and the window's shattering depends only on what Suzy's rock does. So we avoid this problem of preemptors. Okay, so it seems Lewis is concerned with the problem of preempting. And again, I throw rock and the window would not shatter if I hadn't been thrown the rock. But if I don't throw the rock, somebody else throws the rock. So therefore the window shatters no matter whether I throw or do not throw the rock. And this seems to be a logical problem. Much of the argumentation in causation concerns the superiority of the counterfactual analysis to deductive nomological theories. These arguments were so successful that from a contemporary perspective they seem somewhat quaint. There are so few supporters of deductive nomological theories in contemporary metaphysics that a modern paper would not spend nearly so much time on them. I don't know what that means, because I don't know what is a deductive nomological or nomological theory. That's a certain kind of logic, I believe, right? Wait for 1 second. So here we have a definition of nomological. So relating to or denoting certain principles such as laws of nature that are neither logically necessary nor theoretically explainable, but are simply taken as true. Okay, so I just take some laws as the way they are, I guess. Nomology in philosophy refers to a science of laws based on the theory that it is possible to elaborate descriptions dedicated not to a particular aspect of reality, but inspired by a scientific vision of universal validity expressed by scientific laws. Well, let's look into the Wikipedia page of nomology. Nomology refers to a science of laws based on the theory that it is possible to elaborate descriptions dedicated not to a particular aspect of reality, but inspired by a scientific vision of universal validity expressed by scientific laws. Do we have an example? Just looking for an example. The laws by which our faculties are governed, I guess our capabilities in our mind, or what? To the end that we may obtain a criterion by which to judge or to explain their procedures and manifestations, we have a science which we may call nomology of mind. Man, we need better examples. We need better examples in philosophy to make the entry to philosophy easier. So yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not an expert in analytic philosophy. That's maybe the problem here, right? Counterfactual theories. Well, let's look a little bit after here. After causation, the focus, at least of those interested in reductive theories, moved to counterfactual theories. And it became clear that Lewis had a bit of work left to do. He needed to say more about the details of the notion of counterfactual dependence. He did this in Counterfactual Dependence and Time's Error. As discussed in section 2, he needed to say more about the nature of events. In events, he said that they were natural properties of regions of space-time. At this stage, he assumed that events were the relata of the causal relations. This assumption is criticized by L.A. Paul, and in 2004, Lewis drops. And prodded by Jack Won Kim, he needed to add that A and B had to be wholly distinct events for B to counterfactually depend on it. The alternative would be to say that an event's happening is caused by an essential part of the event, which is absurd. Okay, so they need to be independent from each other, right? But the biggest problem concerned what became known as late preemption. So here we have another problem with such a theory of counterfactuals. In the rock thrown example above, we assumed that Billy decided not to throw when he saw Suzy thrown. But we can imagine a variant of the case where Billy waits to see whether Suzy's rock hits and only then decides not to throw. In such a case, it is the window's shattering, not anything prior to this, that causes Billy not to throw. That means that there is no event between Suzy's throw and the window shattering on which the shattering is counterfactual dependent. There's no event between a thrown and shattering on which the shattering is counterfactual dependent. Yeah, Billy just throws it, right? Depending on whether it shatters or not. And it doesn't depend on anything that happens in between Suzy throwing that or not. But why? Why are we doing this? Why is this so important? Lewis addressed this issue in Redundant Causation, one of the 6 postscripts to the reprinting of Causation in 1986. He started by introducing a new concept, Quasi-Dependence. B quasi-depends on A if and only if there is a process starting with A and ending with B, and B counterfactually depends on A, and the process from A to B is an intrinsic duplicate of the process from A to B. And the laws governing the process from A to B are the same as the laws governing the process from A to B. In short, quasi-dependence is the relation you get if you start with dependence. Yeah, so like I'm sure we can dive into this and then really explain this. But why are we doing this? Can somebody explain to me why are we doing this? This philosophy, or is this some kind of weird physics, just metaphysics? What is it? I'm not sure. So thanks for watching assisted reading. I have no ideas what Lewis is about. I always had that problem when I was reading that. I could never explain it to myself. So please, maybe you explain it to me. Thanks for watching.